Let's call the meeting to order.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
President Gardner,
Here.
Vice President Gerber,
Present.
Commissioner Scholar, Commissioner Jones,
Present.
Commissioner Santi,
Present.
Solicitor Stone,
Here.
Manager Patterson. Here.
We do have a quorum, so we shall proceed. Meeting minutes. Motion to approve the minutes of the workshop meeting of February 9th, 2015. Need a motion?
I make that motion.
Second? I'll second it.
I wasn't here.
Since we're the only two here.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Presentation of bond issue refinance options by Tom Lynch.
Well, thank
Welcome.
you very much. Gwen had, at the agenda meeting, made available this presentation. Now, what I did is I just put it together. It's the exact same presentation you may have, but I just put it in a notebook or a folder, whatever, however you like
Is
to.
this the same as I have right here?
It's the same as you have there, so if you want to just follow that,
I'll
if
do
you
that
have
because
notes,
I got marks on it.
yeah, if you got your marks on it, then
Thank you.
you might want to hold on to that. So, by introduction, I'm Tom Lynch, I'm a bond attorney, and I'm from Pittsburgh, and this is my area of expertise. And Mr. Jones had called me on the phone and asked me to take a look at your 2011 bond issue and more or less take a look at it from the idea of reviewing the pros and cons of the financing done in 2011 and the structure of that financing and more or less the legal relationship that you have. Now, I'm going to be pretty concise. I'm used to doing executive summary formats. So you'll find what I'll do is I will spend more time on a certain area and then kind of speed through things. And so, again, I am not a computer jockey, I can tell you that. And although I'm good at certain things, you'll find some typos in here. So we can kind of just ignore those because I have 10th grade typing skills from circa 1974. So what you have is on the front page is the cover page, just says Addendum A. And if you turn to the next page, we call that the slide, and the Roman I or the Roman 1, I'm going to discuss the 2011 bond issue. And what you did in 11 is that your township issued guaranteed sewer revenue bonds, and you issued debt whereby your debt service is level. So each year, your debt service, your principal and interest payment is approximately about $570,000. And so that's a standard procedure. You're on the right page.
Okay.
And that's a very standard procedure, and that's what you would like to do. And you did a 30-year issue, which is not uncommon for a sewer system. Now, probably the little wrinkle that you did is that the township became the conduit in which you financed and did the bond issue. You had an existing authority, but the township was brought in, and so the township now has a sewer revenue fund, and the township pledges the sewer revenue fund on the bonds. And that's a standard structure that allows you to not only do your 2011 bond issue, but if you had other capital needs 10 years from now, you would follow the exact same structure. So what I determined from all this, and I'm turning to the next page, in reviewing the legal covenants and the security agreements, at the top of that page you have the Roman 2, is that your security documents were just spot on. So I'm here to tell you and give you a blue sky type of opinion that what was done in 11 was, absolutely correct and really does fit what you need to do. And the reason I say that is it doesn't inhibit or restrict your township from borrowing money in other areas, such as leasing, buying trucks and things like that. And in B, what you notice is that you pledge to the bondholders a first lien revenue on the sewer system. That's what they want. Then the backup is the general obligation pledge. And that's only in the case of if the sewer revenues are deficient. when you do this type of pledge, what you're doing is you're issuing parity bonds. So all the 2011 bonds, no matter what their maturity is and what their interest rate, they have the same security interest. And that is a very good way to do that, because you got your bonds approved from the Department of Community and Economic Development under the Local Government Unit Debt Act, which gives those legitimacy, says that they're valid and enforceable. So skipping to the next slide at the top, which is Roman 3, and it's titled Pros and Cons of a Negotiated Sale. The type of sale that you did on your bond issue was you did a negotiated sale where you had one underwriter, Janney Montgomery Scott, and your financing team, which would have been made up of a bond counsel, Dinsmore Scholl, and another co-bond counsel, your underwriter, Janney, your paying agent, Wells Fargo, and for the most part, it was determined to use a negotiated where you have one underwriter come and buy your bonds, sell your bonds, broker your bonds, have a settlement, turn the money over to the township so you could construct the project. Now, one member of that prior financing team, Janney, is very interested in representing you again in what I'm promoting is an advance refunding or a refunding, because Mr. Jones had asked me, one of the things would be to develop a strategy for refunding your bond issue if it was feasible. So what I did is I did get in touch with Janney and was instructed that they had sent out what they call, in general terms, the G17 letter, which is a non-binding engagement authorization letter. It's a lot of jargon. It really gets down to that they need that signed and returned by you folks so they can come and start giving you projections, and you're not bound by them. You don't have to select them as your underwriter, but they can actually come back and give you some studies on this refunding. And so just quickly, so I can move through this part, it just says that the underwriter is only going to service you as an underwriter, not as a financial advisor. There's a distinction. You really don't have to understand the difference, but I'll get into that. Underwriters buy and sell your bonds. They make a profit, and they don't want to hold your bonds. They want to broker your bonds. But what they do is they will do the runs and everything necessary to analyze the refundings. So again, the last time you did a negotiated sale. So we're going to go to the next slide. At the top of that, in the outline of my legal service agreement, I stated I wasn't going to do a peer review. I'm not going to go back and throw tomatoes at anybody on the financing team. It was done the way you should do it. It was standard. As a bond attorney, I specialize in public finance. So I deal with these members of the financing team. I deal with the underwriter. I deal, in some cases, you may determine to select a financial advisor. And of course, as a bond attorney, I do I opine, which is a fancy way of saying that I put the tax-free opinion on your bond issue. And it's my opinion that really markets the bonds, if you will, makes them tax-free, because I opine to everything under the tax laws and opine that they're valid and enforceable. Your bond counsel in 2011 did the same thing. So when you look at doing a refunding bond issue, I'm down on the last third comment, and that is that compiling the bond market data for analysis and presentation is done by your underwriter that you select and or the financial advisor that you select that would work with you. As a bond attorney, I recognize these runs and understand them, but I'm not the person that is in touch with the market on a day-to-day basis and really can advise you. But what happens is, if you recall from the last time, many times what's put together is kind of a model, and they come explain things to you, and you use that model to make your decision. So that, in conclusion, I'm skipping to the next page. I'll quickly go through it and just say that your 11 issue was done correctly. Your underwriter presented appointed last time, Janie is very interested again in representing you. Now, you have the opportunity of using Janie again, or you can use Janie and just use their investment banker or their, what they call their underwriting desk. And that would be where you might, in the third option, as I show you, you can engage an independent financial advisor, a firm such as Public Financial Management, who's a national financial advisor. And what they would do is they do not buy or sell your bonds. And what they do is they would monitor the market, set up the model that you need to do a refunding, come and make a couple presentations so the commissioners are comfortable with this idea. And they would use projections to get you comfortable. And then really where PFM, if I can use that acronym, where they earn their money is they negotiate on behalf of the township, and they negotiate with the underwriter. So the underwriter, what happens is there's two parts that are expensive in a bond issue, and that's what you pay in the bond discount, and that's the fee you pay the underwriter, which is sometimes called their potential profit, and then whatever the interest rates are. And what PFM, the financial advisor, does is they pretty much set up a scale and say to the underwriter, you will meet this scale of interest rates because this is what's on the market today, and your bond discount will not exceed $8.75, where the last bond issue you paid $10 per thousand on your bonds. Not that that's a high thing, but when you go and do a refunding for another client, it's expected in this business that since the underwriter just did the work, 2-3 years ago, a lot of the same things they can queue up rather quickly. So in conclusion, the last bond issue was done correctly. Your underwriter is interested. You have this third independent option. I bring it up because that was the idea, to possibly have someone independent take a look at this. So that sort of concludes that portion of where you were, where you're going. Now, the next section, the cover sheet has addendum A on it. And I'm going to spend the most time here, but I'm not going to be wordy. So I'm going to go quickly through it. So if you turn to the first slide under refunding strategies, there's two types of refundings. One is called an advance. The other is called a current. The distinction is an advance refunding. You can issue the bonds anytime presently, and you can issue it anytime in advance, upwards of 90 days to the call date. Your 11 bond issue has a December 1st, 2016 call date. So you really can't call those bonds in until that time period. But with an advance refunding, you can issue bonds in advance of the call date, park the money in an escrow fund until you can call those bonds in December 1 of 16. Now, that's a little less than 2 years away. And so what you have is the other current refunding is when you do a bond issue just prior to the call date. So your call date is 12/1 of 16. So the way I look at it is you can do an advance refunding. You can lock in rates now presently. You can do that all of 2015 and even the first 3 quarters of 16. If you decide to delay all the way until the 3rd quarter or the 4th quarter of 2016, you'll be within that 90 days of the call date, and it'll be just called a current refunding. So the advantages of an advance refunding is to lock in the rates immediately and get into this historically low bond market that we're having. The sole advantage of a current refunding is that you preserve that one advance refunding, and disadvantage is it's a delayed situation. And so what happens is that the two styles, the advance and the current, really the style of what you choose determines when you go and do your bond issue to do the refunding. Now, in either case, I'm happy to tell you that you have a net savings in doing a refunding net of all your issuance costs. And I say that because I had a financial advisor like run the numbers. And so in the next, quickly, I'll skip to the next page. I'm going to go through it quickly. I'm not an MBA, but I do have an accounting degree. So I will warn you that I'm quite comfortable in talking very rapidly about these things. The pro to the advance refunding is you eliminate what is called an interest rate risk, because you go into the market within about 60 to 90 days, and you take advantage of the low rates now. And, the prediction is that we're talking about the long-term rates here, that they're going to go up. So that's the advantage. And no one has a crystal ball. I can tell you that no one comes to any of these meetings and has a crystal ball, or we wouldn't be here, obviously. If we had a crystal ball, I wouldn't be here. I would be at Miami Beach on Doral, sucking on a Mai Tai right now. So if we now turn to the next slide, 3 at the top, to achieve the advance refunding, you borrow the money now.
Background. You're just talking relatively here on your item 3,
Yes,
that there will be substantial saving.
relatively, but I'll let the cat out of the bag. It's going to approach $1 million.
Order of magnitude, that's what I want.
Yes, it will approach $1 million. Okay, about 50,000 each year through the rest of your 26 type.
Okay, that's
Okay.
what I want.
So you're approaching $1 million on the savings.
Thank you.
And so that's fine. And I'm going to go quicker here in that when you do that advance, you've got to park that money. When you park that money, you have what are called inefficiencies that are less efficient. And that's an inherent thing with an advance refunding. I was surprised that you had savings under an advance refunding. There's so many situations where the numbers don't work. Okay, yours work. I'm not the computer jockey to really explain it, but it's pretty simple to see that if you do the wait and see and the delay for the current refunding, you're incurring like an opportunity cost and probably going to miss all the savings. Okay, and that's why I'm encouraging this idea of doing an advance refunding.
And we can put that in escrow.
You put it in escrow. That's right. It will not earn as much money as you borrow at.
I appreciate
That's the inefficiency.
We used to be able to do that.
Used to be back in the 70s, back when everybody
Gotcha.
in the 80s, and I was around then, believe it or not, driving my dad to the meetings. Okay, so going to the next slide, which is marked 4. What you're going to find is any cost benefit analysis is going to be somewhat clouded. And I'll tell you why. All your computer jockeys can do is create a model. And what they do is they would take the current market rates today and put that in the model to pick out a date and show you what they project those refunding numbers to be. There's no real time until you go to do the bond sale. You've made that decision. You've picked out who you're going to use. You've gone to the rating agency. The good thing is you don't incur any costs, and you do have that ability, if it's not there, to just like walk away or delay it. So what happens is you have to be comfortable with the idea of projected numbers, but they use empirical data. The empirical data is the market rates as of today plugged in the model, because you can't say, I think I'm going to be out at the Doral Country Club sipping my Mai Tai and know the interest rates are going to be a year from now, and I'm going to put that number in. It's just not a fair thing to do. So that's that. So I've really said, I think, enough. The rest of the presentation, I think, is just going through things that you know. And in fact, in reading it, I find myself maybe just missing a little bit of, your transaction was done properly. And what you did was you had an authority, but the township had to step up and be the conduit borrower, because you had to become sort of the construction manager when you put the bigger pipes in the ground to send the treatment down to Sewickley. And so your relationship with the authority has not really changed much of anything because your authority still, manages the system. They're still there doing the water side, but on the sewer side, you know that if there's a rate increase, you're going to hear about it. You know what the rates are because basically you know what your O&M is right now and you have your debt service figured out. So I'm going to just kind of stop at this point because the balance of it.
We part ways here. I personally am not happy with this truncated situation where the township borrows the money, the debt's on their books.
It is. Can I just refine that for a second? It's on the township books. However, it's qualified as what's called self-liquidating debt, meaning that the sewer revenues carry the debt service.
I understand that.
Okay, so
But let me just
you
finish.
can finish, sure.
When it comes to the authority,
Mhm.
that debt does not appear on the authority's books at all.
No, it would not. It would not. It's not
It's causing a lot of heartache
okay.
with our auditors and with our people that are CFOs. And they say we're hiding the fact that the authority is servicing 8.4 million or 16 million, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And it nowhere appears on our books. And we're carrying this debt and it doesn't appear in our audit. I too have been in this business a while and have seen a lot of transactions, and classically it's either an authority's doing it or a municipality's doing it.
Well, there's the hybrid where the township guarantees the authority debt.
Well, that's right.
Okay, well, that's in effect, you have that just reversed. Where you have a leaseback authority, which is nothing other than they own the sewers and they turn over the operating to the township. That's another hybrid
Yeah.
situation. You do in the water side have a completely operating authority.
Exactly.
It's called Westview Water. It's called Westmoreland County Water Authority. They're huge.
Yeah.
Okay? There's two of them in the state of Pennsylvania. Westview and Westmoreland County Water. Most authorities are smaller. Okay, so again, you can speak. I'm not trying to take away from your time.
I think this hybrid is very difficult. And I mean, it's convoluted.
Okay,
In my view, it either has to be run and operated by the township, and in this case, it can't be owned by the authority because they have no funds. We can either do it with a capital lease to the authority,
you can do that.
which would make it, from an accounting standpoint, a little easier to explain.
And who are we explaining this to?
Auditors.
I can talk to your auditors.
Well, I wish you would have.
I think your auditors,
We got a couple CFOs on our board too.
and I have no problem
I
talking
mean,
with your
it's
authority.
not C.
Right.
Okay. But it is a convoluted deal here.
Okay, let me just say this, and I'm not trying to cut you off, Mr. Anthony. I come from the old school. My dad did this a long
I
time.
know
Okay.
you're not.
And, he actually worked with George Keith, was an engineer and built sewer systems before he went to law school. And so there is this traditional way of an authority being the operator, owner of the pipes
Right.
and sending the bills out.
Okay.
Okay. What you had in the 2011 transaction is, I was told this doesn't necessarily mean that they couldn't have held to a different model structure and have only authority debt, but it would have been guaranteed by the township. But it was determined at the time that the bond market, which is this amorphous kind of thing, viewed this project as a startup project. It was the dog and the existing system was the tail. And so the determination made by your professionals was that there was a little more credibility in the township. Because the township, the township has the general taxing powers. Even though they're not pledged and they're backup pledge, you'd be amazed. You'd be amazed. That does speak to credibility. Now, once you started that process to change it is really strange. You'd have to have the authority issue debt, go through the whole 9 yards, yeah, to pay off the township debt. Okay, so I mean, I know, I hear what you're saying, and that's why I'm not really trying to make it into a dialogue. I do hear what you're saying, because from 72 to 80, this wouldn't necessarily have gone through the township. But there's sort of a new world out there when it comes to the rating agencies. I can tell you, they actually do their job now and ask questions. And they don't want to know about these little authorities, because to them, their view is that an authority is either the alter ego of the township, that you always have governmental cooperation, which you may have, but I can guarantee in a lot of my municipality and authorities, it's not governmental cooperation. It's like plastic silverware, you know? It's, okay. So in saying all that, I hope I can just kind of sum it up and let you go and just say to you, I believe what you should do. This is my recommendation.
Please.
And I don't want to be an attorney that says, here's the issues. No. What I'm saying to you is, I would suggest taking some actions on deciding whether you want to use one underwriter, and the township has to negotiate with that underwriter. Even the bond attorney doesn't really have the skills other than if they're selling you the Brooklyn Bridge. I'll stand up and say something, obviously. But the option that I'm promoting is the idea that you would get an independent financial advisor, PFM, who comes to your meetings, by the way, and would give you like 2 dry runs. Now, these guys are totally financial guys. They're going to just hit the street running with the idea that you're going to do the refinancing and use the township again. But I can tell you that these guys sit in the captain's seat because they do so many transactions. You may have heard of them. They represent, municipalities that declare bankruptcy, but you're not allowed in Pennsylvania, but we have a statute. So they do that. And, where they make their money is a little bit of representing you. And at times it's a loss leader for them, in a sense that they really do want to sell you their asset management. They have what's called Pliget. I think a lot of people know what Pliget is.
Yeah, what is the relationship between the two?
Okay, Pliget is purely their asset management group, and Pliget is just a mutual fund, if you will, made for municipalities.
But they are owned?
No, there's so many separations.
Because we're meeting with Pliget on Wednesday.
We have some investment accounts with them.
Yeah, and Pliget's, in a way, almost mutually exclusive.
What's one in
Bill
Harrisburg?
Crow?
PF.
PFM.
Are they not for profit?
Oh, they're for profit.
They're for profit.
They're for profit. The difference is that they don't buy and sell your bonds.
Right.
And on your investments.
But what relationship does Pliget legally have to PFM?
PFM. They are the asset managers of PFM. Pliget is, a local investment trust created by a couple people who worked at Public Financial Management. So they're bonds are the debt side, and then what we call the asset side is the money that you have to, and pensions.
So what you're basically saying, or what we discussed, PFM theoretically is a financial advisor with no upfront cost.
For a while, but they get paid at the settlement. So.
Theoretically, will bid our bond issue out to all underwriters, the universe, so to speak,
If you wish that,
and theoretically sell our bonds for less, including their eventual fee.
yes,
We've only used them to save more money,
use them to save money and they show that
as opposed to us being relatively not knowledgeable of the industry, negotiating with one underwriter.
that's exactly right, George.
Right.
Yeah, that's
With
the
Jenny. With Jenny.
Jenny or
Or
anyone you
Right.
choose. I used Jenny because we know who they are.
Right.
And the other hybrid, which is really a classic for you, is to use PFM and invite 3 underwriters and pick Jenny, pick Mellon Capital Markets, which are downtown, okay? And then like a Bonning and Scattergood, who's based out of pretty much Conshohocken, one of those exits on the turnpike, but very strong in the competition world. And you get 3 to compete.
And this non-binding agreement that Janie had asked us to sign.
Yeah.
And Gwen and I talked about this openly. The only issue that I had with that particular agreement is it said it was the intent of the commissioners to use Janie as an underwriter. Even though it said later it's not binding,
Right.
I'm not comfortable with that. Because I'm not ready to make up my mind as to what underwriter to use. Now, can they give us advice without us signing that agreement?
Jenny can give you advice. The word I have is that they're not allowed to use really, they can't take the empirical data and put in the model. The simple thing is that you have some money left over from the 11 transaction. And in a refunding, you devote that as an equity contribution. And as silly as it sounds, that they have to show you numbers like they work in a vacuum. They're not allowed to look at your equity contribution. So if you sign a non-binding engagement letter with another underwriter, the other underwriter would be allowed to take those monies and show you that you can save a lot more
Right.
by using that. So that's what it is. So you
And
don't have to
your
sign.
future role might be,
I would be the bond attorney. I would take the place of Dinsmore Scholl, the Sean Guerin. I don't know if you really dealt with them as much as, because what happens is a lot of things just happen very fast in this business, your first time through. So my role is I opine to the tax-free nature of the bond issue that's valid enforceable. I work with Harlan, who gives an opinion because he knows things that I don't in terms of what the township is made up of. But, as he knows that you need a bond counsel because, the truth is, I carry the liability on the bond issue. And since I only do bond issues, then you always have a bond counsel involved because the bondholders won't purchase your bonds.
so
Without-
you're the one that makes sure that the revenues are appropriate, that it's a self-liquidating,
Yes, I do that. Yes.
you know,
You get the engineer to certify to that, and I run it through the state, and we certify that it's self-liquidating. That's right. I'm the man.
and so I believe that PFM met by phone or in person with Gwen.
We did a conference call with Gwen. I was involved in that call.
And is there any downside at this point to having them come to us?
No, because I talked to the guy and I said, look, I'm not going to have time to explain what you do, but in passing, I'll mention. And he said, well, we'll come down and do presentations with no expectations of being paid until
And
you
then-
sign on board and you go
Sure.
through the bond issue.
And then the assumption that we'll save money is twofold, I think. One, we've paid our bill now for a couple of years. Our bond rating has gone up.
Yeah.
1 mark.
Right.
And number 2, the interest rates are at a universal low.
They're historic low.
So there's 2 reasons why the $1 million, $50,000 a year. And then just so people can understand, Gwen and I went through this before. This is not going to reduce the debt service payment per month from 49 to 10. It might reduce it from 49 to 44.
Right.
Maybe to 42.
Right.
But nonetheless,
It's like 10,000 a year.
Something, right?
It's something. And truth is, if I can be honest, the savings rarely gets returned to the ratepayer because you park that money and you put it into a capital improvement fund
Don't tell him that.
because you need to have a depreciation fund.
I'm thinking 50-50.
You can do 50/50, but the bottom line is when it comes to giving 50 cents back on a bill.
Right.
Or taking the savings that you get on an annual basis. And don't forget, you have service and you have like O&M costs that can still go up on you. And,
Yes.
you know, like just to use that little treatment plant you have, maybe chlorine goes up, or maybe when Sewickley sends you the bill for the treatment, their chlorine cost goes up. That's the situation where
That's more like.
you're returning money to
But
ratepayers.
nonetheless, save the money,
Yes,
figure out what to do with those
Right.
savings when we have the savings.
yeah, and PFM actually will tell you
Yes.
methods to do that. It's pretty interesting. They're pretty good at that.
I,
They'll
I,
even tell you what rate to use.
I reviewed their webpage and we've talked, I mean, we're meeting with Pliget and I saw the connection. Still don't know exactly what it is, but they're pretty tight.
They are.
Okay.
Just don't ask the plague guy anything about bonds or
Okay.
he'll bore you.
I know what I want to do.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
Okay,
Good night.
No, appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, is this the end of our original contractual relationship? Did we
Yeah.
spend all our money?
You did. In fact, I have the bill to give to Gwen. So that's how we'll just seal that off. So,
May we have one more conversation
oh, absolutely. In fact,
on the same contract?
under the same contract. Absolutely. And
Thanks.
I'm,
Thank you.
yeah, you're quite welcome.
Tom, your dad is?
Victor, he passed away a couple of years ago, but he was a bond attorney for a lot of years, 40 years.
Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
Did a lot of work for my dad.
There you go. All right, good night.
Thank you.
Good
night.
Stay warm.
So I don't know if we need a motion, but I want to get this independent financial advisor here.
I don't think you need a motion for that.
No.
Gwen, can you organize that?
Yes.
Should we have a finance committee meet with them or do you want to have them meet with the entire committee?
No, let's
With
meet
the
with the
commission.
whole committee.
All right.
Would you like that at a special session or a workshop meeting?
Probably workshop.
Workshop ASAP.
Can I ask you, did you get your question about signing an underwriter letter answered?
No.
I didn't think so. To get,
If it's
Better
truly
numbers?
non-binding and you take that one sentence out, I think he said we're fine. But I'd like to hear from this other group first.
okay, gotcha.
George, I think you could probably tweak that and say it's a non-exclusive or it's your intent to use them amongst.
No,
amongst
it
others.
says non-exclusive all over the place. There was just one sentence. It is the intent of the commissioners of Aleppo Township to utilize Janney as the underwriter. And then it goes on to say, so it says it's our intent, but then it says it's non-binding. That got me. It appears that Janney's going to have every opportunity to participate either way. We're just going to try and get the best possible deal we can.
Question's been going through my mind. Is it of the opinion generally that we got about the best interest rate we could get at the time that we did this, the original?
No, your bonds weren't that highly rated.
Well, that's because we didn't have.
Kind of like he said, you never know.
You never know.
It's like, he said, the market viewed this as a startup project.
Yeah.
Startup companies are back to our penny stock.
Mhm.
You know, we weren't a good risk.
Weren't a good risk.
Moody's had a hard time rating us because they didn't
Not a good
understand
rating.
the.
We'd never borrowed more than $100,000.
Uh-huh.
And I'll
We
tell you
had
something else, because I
Multiple calls with
was a
them
little
trying
bit
to
involved with
explain
that.
the
It
reason.
wasn't just you. There was other things were going on in the bond market at the time. Harrisburg had just defaulted on all of their municipal loans on a big plant that they had.
Oh, I remember that, the incinerator.
The
And
incinerator.
the incinerator. And
We
you
didn't
were
do
coming, you were
I
coming
did the
in.
water plant, not the incinerator.
One of your applications came in, went in right after that,
And the bonding agencies were all running scared. So, and then when they saw that you didn't have a track record and everything else,
Right.
that spooked them.
Well, one of the things that I noted on their webpage, one of the projects they did was with Philadelphia Water or something like that, this PFM. And they did an analysis of the market and they did an analysis of the project and they said, time out, you shouldn't do it right now.
Yeah, it's good news.
I think that the individual underwriter has a different set of motivations than the independent financial advisor. I think the independent financial advisor is going to give us, in this moment, a broader view of how we should proceed. We didn't really get too much of a broad view the last time, but that doesn't say we'd get any lower rate. And now we paid our bills, so our bond issue rating has gone up. The interest rates have dropped. It says probably move.
Okay. Anything else on that subject? Tony?
Well, I'm still not happy with the relationship between the authority and the township, but I think that's a subject of an executive meeting at a separate time. Because we've lived through this and it is
Well, I did ask him,
a much simpler way to do this thing.
when I talked to Tom on the phone, I asked him to review the possibility of, in the refinancing, the authority going out for the debt to repay. He's telling us
No, I agree with that. I think you don't have.
it's a tough one.
The authority has zero experience. You're back to ground zero. I just think there's nothing wrong with the way you're gonna do it. I just think if you're gonna do it that way, then the
Let's clean some
township
things up.
have the financial responsibility and should take over the financial responsibility. And put it on your books and not try to
Yeah.
weigh that off on.
And I think that he said he was willing to talk to your auditor and to Tom.
Yeah.
I think he might be able to clarify that.
Oh, okay, I just.
All right,
think
good.
For simplicity, we should do it because we keep running into these problems, guys.
Good.
Okay,
Okay, good.
move on.
Number 6, reports, public safety. We don't have,
She's not here, but I have kind of the call list. I can't answer any details about any of them, but I can give you some, I'll give you the ones that are more than one call. Residential alarms 2, business alarms 7, road department call outs 12, emergency assist ambulance 4, animal complaints 2, traffic citations 6, and then a bunch of single other kind of things. So total of 53 calls for the month of January.
okay. Anything else on that? Fire department, no report.
Has there been any other fallout or consequence from the meeting, the discussion that was had last week with respect to EMS and fire department?
Just that Chief Davis went to a meeting over at Valley Ambulance to clarify if they were the ones who were having the complaint, and they said they were not. So that's as far as I know. I don't know of any other call.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's see, so that, nothing further on the fire department?
I guess.
Emergency management? anything?
Just an update that all of the letters that Judy we talked about at the last meeting, which the letters being sent to residents, asking if they have any special needs that they should be aware of for the emergency operations plan. They all were sent out and gotten a few responses trickling in. Not everyone will respond because if you don't have a need, I don't expect those people to send a letter back, but the letters are starting to trickle in.
Did I get that letter?
I did not.
They were not sent to individual Masson residents because the Masson GOP is going to be attached to ours and incorporated by reference, so we don't have to send them to individuals there.
Okay, Public Works, Tom?
Yeah, let me guess. You've been spreading salt.
What were you doing
That's
last?
pretty much it, huh?
Yeah, well, we've been going through a lot of salt.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've looked at the salt bill.
I saw it.
It's real high.
Yeah.
And bad note on that, it's gonna come down to, we're not gonna have enough salt.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, the way these storms are going, I mean, it's just killing us.
Yeah, just a
The
little bit
temperature
here.
Right now, if we get a dusting tonight, we're gonna salt the roads.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's just too cold.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of salt on the roads, they're white.
Yeah.
But with the temperature the way it is, and you don't have the traffic moving, you don't have a choice. You gotta throw it. So I'm gonna recommend that I get permission to call tomorrow, order 100 ton, just to keep us in a safe place, because I don't want to be down to the wire where, because the rivers are starting to freeze now.
Mhm.
And I don't want to be in a position where we're scrambling. I just would like the board to. Okay.
Where we are financially is we've ordered the amount that we, requested.
Actually.
We're a little bit over that
Two
now.
loads over
Two
that.
loads over that, so now we're into the
Second tier.
the
Second.
second tier pricing. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me what that was.
But
The original
do I
price,
understand, or do I recall the contract from this conversation last year that they are obligated to continue to provide us
Oh,
with
yes.
salt at that second tier price
Yes.
indefinitely?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, and being mid-February, I think we'll be, if we can go into the second tier, we should be okay. No, the price, for the original price was 79 and it had dropped down to 76 with the fuel adjustments. But I don't have on top of my head what the second tier price was.
Last time when we ordered, she couldn't give me exact quote, but I want to say it was 84 something, I
Okay.
believe it was.
This is-
That quote. I mean, it's a lot of money. A big
So-
deal.
Does he need approval from us to?
I don't think he does.
Not really. I mean, if you just
I
to
just
let you
wanna make
know that we're
aware
gonna
that-
go
yeah,
into the next
okay.
category.
So no.
We've talked in the past about the priority of what roads you hit first. Could you review that for a minute?
Our primary roads are the first, which would be Deer Run, Red Gate, Merriman, Glen Mitchell.
Mhm.
Those are the first four roads that get done automatically because of Masonic, ambulances, and everything.
Mhm.
Plus for the fire department, I mean, those are all hills they gotta come out of. And those are the first roads that always get done.
Which of those roads are done under contract to either the county or the state?
The county is Glen Mitchell and,
Deer Run, right?
no,
That's
Deer
still-
Run Estate
Glen-
and Merriman Estate, and Glenfield Road is county.
And we get
Red
some
Gate.
funds to
Red Gate.
offset that expense.
We do. We get $8,000 a year from the county and probably 12 or 13 from the state
Yeah.
for that.
But
And then
that's,
we get liquid fuels funds
Right.
also from the state, which is what we also use to buy the salt, and that's about $35,000.
is that a predetermined fixed rate or does
Yes,
that
we have a
adjust?
contract with both the
So
county
if
and
we
the
have
state.
to use twice as much salt, it's
Well,
still a
those-
flat
yeah.
rate?
Flat rate.
Liquid-
The
liquid
state will
fuels is
give
based
you,
on the mileage.
the state will give you a severe winter adjustment sometimes if they know it's been rough, but that's about $2,000.
Unfortunately, I came up Red Gate last Saturday morning at 9:50. I didn't make it.
Good choice.
Sorry about that.
Well, I mean, actually,
Oh, good move.
we got, actually, I called Timmy at 20 after 9 because I saw the roads were starting to cover. And just as I was pulling in, county called me.
Yeah, Tom beats the county call out a lot.
So, I mean, as soon as we got here, I mean, those were the first roads we jumped on.
How much time does it take you to do all the roads once?
It depends. I mean, if it's just like a typical salting, if we just have to salt, generally you can do the whole township with 2 trucks, 2.5, 3 hours.
Wow. So it can't all happen at once.
No, it's a lot of roads.
No, it doesn't.
A lot of roads.
The only bad thing about Aleppo, it's all hills.
Yeah, yeah, it sure is.
That's what hurts you.
So you don't need a motion, so let's move on.
Nope.
Thank you.
Anything else on your,
Just, I mean, the maintenance on the trucks, I mean, they're taking a beating right now. In fact, we have put a new plow in the one plow today because he was down to nothing. Believe it or not, on the new dump Saturday night, windshield washers quit working here. They're plastic, and I guess from the heat with the engine and the turbo, they broke off from the heat. They got so brittle. So today we had to go buy new things. It's one thing after another. It's not
Just in the winter.
Well, you're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
keep it to it.
You got a good crew.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
What are you thinking coming up Redgate Road?
That's what I wanted.
The boulevard was practically dry and I turned on the red gate and all of a sudden it was, no,
I never go there.
I wouldn't come up Redgate Road
In the winter.
in the middle of the summer. In July.
It's hard
And yet
to
our
understand.
comprehensive plan that's outlined as a bike path. So.
tell you
that
the
is an
truth,
identified bicycle path.
when I get started, and I even had trouble getting up Deer Run, but maybe I get new tires, I don't know.
Let me refresh your memory now. We've received the RFPs from the engineers. We've narrowed it down to Gateway and the other
HRG.
HRG. And we're going to interview the two, George, Gwen and I. And there's been some questions that Gateway is
Swickley Heights.
Swickley Heights. Look, the fact that an engineer works for another community is not a conflict of interest. The conflict of interest is, I'll quote you, KLH, conflict of interest is when an engineer is working on a project where he's representing both the buyer and the seller, and there's money that's going to be changed. That's a conflict of interest. So, okay.
Tom? Tom should meet these people.
Yeah, if you want to.
Would you like to come to those
Do
meetings?
you want to come to the meeting? No? You're invited.
So we're eliminating Naira and Glenn.
Right. They were non-responsive
They were non-responsive to what?
to the RFP.
Didn't they, what is this?
Well, they didn't,
Answer the
that's
question.
just boilerplate. We asked for specific information.
Oh, okay.
And one guy told us all about the the waste treatment plants he built. We're not going to build any waste treatment.
Okay.
And the other one was a
Hey, you don't,
sophomore. Okay,
Okay.
moving on. That's all.
Communications,
yeah, I don't have anything to say. We got other stuff to talk about today.
okay. Planning and zoning? Nothing.
No.
Tax collector, she has something to say.
You have the reports, and there is no grid tonight because it's just $50,000 in taxes with $32,179 of realty transfer tax because we sold the transfer of the print shop. So that's very nice.
Hmm.
And I don't have the current budget, so
Yeah,
I
I'd
didn't
rather
do
know
that.
You'll get that, yeah.
I will get that. Earned income was $12,653.42. Business privilege, $1,375.94. Local service, $347.40. Property tax, $3,752.42. Nothing in the delinquent real estate taxes, and then the wonderful $32,179,028 of the transfer tax, for a total of $50,308.46.
Okay.
Any questions?
Transfer more property.
Yes, that's the whole idea.
Okay.
And if you are ready for treasurer's report, the general fund in PNC has $163,458.61. The Pliget Trust, $155,189,076. The Pliget Plus, which is our money market fund, $753,927.83. The liquid fuels, $16,303.55. The reserve fund with Pliget is $103,405.22. The capital improvements, $423,791.94. Invest $15,741.99. Is there an advantage to keeping that invest account open, or?
I don't know, but we can talk about that as part of our
Yeah,
general
just,
account discussion.
it's making 67 cents a month. That's pretty big.
Its interest rate is a little better than some of the other Pliget accounts,
Yeah.
so we could look at that.
Okay, total monies on hand, $1,616,076.91. And the various targeted funds, the pledge funds and the liquid fuels funds, our net operating is $1,056,834.21. The bond fund, which is the water or sewer funds, has a balance right now of $252,957.33. And the unexpended bond funds remains at $437,677.29. And that has not changed, to my knowledge, since last month.
Can you give a very general analysis of the pledged funds?
The pledge funds are the liquid fuel, which is
16.
the 16,000. And then the obligated funds are the capital improvement, the 423,000, and the invest, I think invest is in there,
And I think
and the reserve fund.
Good.
Anything else?
I saw in the paper where Minnick did several transactions. Did we get a tax on
We
that?
did. Yeah,
Yes,
that's
that's
part
part
of
of
that
it. That's part of
32
it.
came from some, they separated some properties amongst.
Yeah, I just
And
kind of funny transactions.
for yours and others, you've heard Gwen, Tony, and I are meeting with Pliget
Yes,
on Wednesday
yes.
to determine if there's a higher interest rate to be obtained for some of these funds.
May I sit in on that meeting, and what time is it?
3 o'clock
3 o'clock
Sure.
on
Wednesday.
Here, if I might.
Sure.
Thank you much. Anything else?
Thank you.
I have one thing to add. Tony, you had asked a couple months ago for an accounting of the debt service account
Yeah.
and what that balance might be available for use outside of payment of the bond debt.
Yes.
And I have it for, we started with 2014, and what I have here is the month, the amount that was collected, and given to us. The
Yes.
collected amount is what's given to the township for the
What
account.
you paid.
The amount that was needed for that year, because each year the amounts changes a little bit. And so we have the difference, and then we have a running total of what would be available out of that account for use for capital improvement
Yeah.
funds. So would you like me to hand that out, or would you like,
I'd like to see it.
Okay.
I have use for it right away.
Did we get an explanation for the one red line?
that was just, they collected, yes, I mean, with what she said is it's just, the build date and the date we received were 2 months off. So we, this month in February, received the December collections, because the timing of when they come in and when the checks are cut. And the December collections were lower than what we needed for that month to pay the debt service, but there was a slightly higher percentage of delinquents that month. And so what may well happen is that next month collection will be a little higher than what we need, and it tends to balance out through the year. You'll watch and see that some are lower, some are higher, and it just cycles a little bit. As
Yeah,
long as we're-
Transfer whatever we collect,
you want one?
so that makes it easy. So there's-
Yes, transfer whatever's collected, and we're just keeping tabs
Yeah.
of what is needed for debt and what's available for outside purposes.
Thank you.
There's the only red,
Is that the R one too?
Yeah, thank you.
but here's the net.
Yeah, yeah, well, that's the important one.
Okay.
Not in 11.
Did we skip over planning zoning? I don't,
Mhm.
oh yeah, I guess,
You called, right?
You called, Janet. You didn't have it.
nothing, okay. You went too fast. Treasurer. Okay, under finance, which is the next subject, we need a motion to approve the January bill list in the amount of $83,335.84.
I move to approve the January bill list in the amount of $83,335.84.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. So I assume I'll have some checks to sign.
I move to ratify the January prepaid bills in the amount of $9,799.25.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
I move to ratify the January payroll transfers in the amount of $17,210.12.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aleppo Township Authority.
Well, I'll try to give you an abbreviated. I won't go through my 7 pages here. First, let me tell you, we've have been looking at the water and sewer finances, and the only thing that stuck out in my mind was that we've lost a lot of commercial customers. In fact, 22% of our commercial customers are no longer paying for sewer or water. They are
Over what period of time?
since the beginning of the year. So
Since the beginning of 2014?
no, since the beginning of, I'm sorry, during 2014.
Okay.
No, not 1 month. I said the beginning of the year. Okay. Let me repeat.
Yeah, got it.
2014,
Good.
okay? Which was surprising to us, and our revenues are down, but so that's the only thing that really stuck out as far as I was concerned. And we continue to monitor that. So that plays into your taxes and everything else. So the whole concept is, I still contend we ought to go knocking on the door of the operator of that park and see what we can do to make it more attractive. Like improve some of the water connections they have, which are leaking like mad. So anyway, okay, moving on. From a maintenance standpoint, the water department had 2 major, and I say major, really major leaks in January. One was a 6-inch water line on Glen Mitchell, the 1100 block. And Bill Davis estimated we lost 120,000 gallons on that leak. And another was at 100 block on Findale, another radial crack in the 6-inch line, which we lost 158,000 gallons. Now, from a technical standpoint, what was interesting is that our low pressure meter went off on both those lines. Because it works. It even works there. And poor Bill says he panicked.
He ran right up there.
Right up there.
Landslide.
And he discovered it was a break.
So wait, 2 days of low pressure,
Yeah, well, yeah. it was
intermittent
two-
low pressure.
Yeah, it was two different days, 2 different days, 2 different instances. So in both times, Bill organized to get out there and shut down valves for the main one, but it was these 2 leaks.
Well, it's good. It also tells us about a major leak.
It does, and well, these are major leaks, that's why
Yeah.
I did it. I mean, when you're talking losing 150,000 gallons, you're losing a lot of water. So-
How did he become aware of the location of the leaks?
He started hunting for it and by,
Driving around?
yeah, you can see that much water.
Oh, yeah, but can't find it still.
But anyway, he was heading up to the hill. Okay, enough of that. So that's, now with respect to I was interested in the money available on the balance here because we continue to have problems with the pumps, the Deer Run pump station. And the reason is it's a very artless design. You've got pumps that are running at very high speed on sewage and at high pressure. So again, we blew some bearings, and and Bill, in his good style, he negotiated with the manufacturer, and they only charged us half the price to replace those bearings, but it comes to about $1,800, and we'll have to use that decision. I think we're going to have problems with that station as we go forward. It is just not an ideal situation for a pump station, sewage pump station. Okay, moving on. From the consulting engineering standpoint, the geotechnical investigation is all finished. Bankson has the report. Bankson is now prepared to start his design and prepare the construction drawings and specifications and obtain whatever applications he needs to go ahead and finish that design for the replacement water line. As part and parcel of that, we made a request for a grant from the Allegheny County Redevelopment Authority. It's called a RAC grant, RAAC, for a maximum of $250,000. Again, we will have to talk to the same political senators, representatives, and even your county man.
County.
Yeah, and see what they can do for us. So we're hoping that we can get that. This is a grant this time. So that will help. It certainly will defray some of the cost of that water line. Okay. So that's underway, and we hope to be out for bids come June. Next, the authority approved the rescinding of the $5,000 tap fee and has established and approved a new tap fee, which is the minimum tap fee that we can charge, which is $770 for the tap fee, plus the cost of the connecting sewer from the dwelling unit to the tap. And that will be done on a material basis. The authority will do that, and they will charge the owner the cost of the material without labor. So that's a great deal for the owners. And not only is it a great deal for them, but it gives the authority the capability of assuring that that line's put in properly. And in most systems where you have the trouble, there's all these little spaghetti lines going out there, and they leak because they use local plumbers and so forth. In this way, the authority will put it in and we'll have good lines. So I think that's going to be a good deal for anybody that wants to build here.
Where's the argument with Swickley stand on tap?
Well,
Are you coming to that?
that's next on my list. If you want.
Okay.
Okay. Well, the argument was Swickley. Wasn't quite next, but I'll get to it. What we have is, in my view, a very good letter presented by our Masonic, their attorney, Buchanan Ingersoll, to Swickley, indicating that as far as they're concerned, in so many words, they're not liable to pay that additional tap fee. And I particularly like the next to last paragraph where they quoted the technical information that we prepared and wanted to submit initially, but never did, about that Aleppo paid for 944 EDUs, and we're nowhere near using that up. Therefore, they're double dipping on us, and therefore, therefore Masonic's not paying, and as far as we're concerned, we're not paying. So that's where we stand.
What about the individuals who receive bills from Swickley?
I don't know if any have.
Or I thought
Well,
There was a
they
letter,
made,
I
they
thought.
made an offer,
Um,
Minnick.
yes, people did pay, or did pay Sewickley before the issue came up.
Mhm.
I don't know of anybody who has received any communication from Sewickley since then.
Well, but, I mean, we're leaving out a follow-up from Sewickley, aren't we? Didn't Sewickley write back and say,
They wrote to
Yes.
Masonic.
they wrote to Masonic and to
And to Minnick.
Minnick?
Yeah.
And then they wrote to us, asking us for,
They asked us for two things. They asked us,
I'm gonna get to that.
oh, I'm sorry, I thought you said that's where we stand.
Well, that's where we stand here. They've not, as far as I know, they've not responded to this.
Yeah, they responded.
Well, Sewickley responded to Masonic's first
First
letter.
letter, but not this.
Right. And
This-
then Masonic responded
I'm gonna copy this.
again.
It's in your, is it in their packet?
I think I emailed it out.
As far as I'm concerned, I know that's the latest piece of letters going back and forth,
Yeah, you're right.
okay?
You're right. That's correct.
Okay. Uh, I'll wait till you're finished. Now, and you asked, and we're going to respond here. We received a letter from Kevin Flannery asking for a building permit report. And they wanted to know all of the tap fee, building permits and tap fees that we collected this year, which we mean to 2014. The answer is 0. We've not had any. We had them in 2013. We had 3. None in 2014. So our response to this is none.
We have one, as far as tap fees, I don't know. That's,
So we have none.
we had one building permit issued for a new construction in 14.
Okay.
Whether or not the tap fee was settled on that property yet, on the authority side, I don't know. The house is under construction, and I know that they have some lines already. So
That's one of McCoy and Glenn Mitchell.
it's a McCoy and South McCoy.
Big house.
I was told that there was no tap fees in 2014.
I don't know about that.
So the answer is 0.
what if there were one? Is this something that we should tell Sewickley?
What,
Well, yeah.
our contract with
Our
Sewickley
country
says
says,
that
yeah.
there's we will provide an annual accounting of all of the new construction or tap-ins given during the year. So it's a one sentence clause in the contract that says annually we will give them a list,
And
It's an annual report.
Yeah.
annual reporting.
The letter says, and I'll read, this is the request that monthly Aleppo Township building permit reports be forwarded to the borough manager's office in Sewickley. The sole purpose of this information is to verify that the borough of Sewickley has obtained a Sewickley sewer tap fee for all new construction. So the answer is 0 in 2014.
Might be one.
Payment for the tap may cross into 2015.
That'll be
Okay.
I said 2014.
Okay.
Okay. We're responding for 2014. Okay. So this is going to continue, guys, until we write that technical letter I wanted to write saying you're double dipping and go home and move us along. But we aren't saying that.
Doesn't the contract also say that we're obligated to cause them to tap into the system?
Well, certainly. we are.
We looked at that, George, and again, if we're gonna get into that, we probably should do it in an executive session.
Right.
Because,
Got it.
I think enough said. Yeah, I think that should be discussed in executive,
Okay.
which I'm happy to do.
I'm not saying anything. We'll talk about it next. Okay. What else? do I want to do? Oh, one of the comments is we're proceeding with the the addition to the garage, the extension of the garage, we've taken bids. We have a low, acceptable low bid, and we're ready to proceed. In fact, we have to proceed with something by March or we lose that loan, $100,000 loan. So Bill Davis is going to order some of the electrical equipment and so forth, which he needs. And we've requested that the contractor provide us with performance bonds and maintenance bonds and also drawings so that we can get a building permit. So that added a little to the cost. So we're ready to, once we get the drawings, to submit for a building permit. And I repeat my request that the township waive the cost of the building permit for the authority. So can I have let me make a motion?
Gwen, would you explain the,
I know that answer.
yeah, some of that comes out of our pocket,
Yeah.
some of it goes into our pocket.
Yes.
Are you asking us?
No, I don't want to make you guys broke. You only have a couple billion. We're dealing with hundreds here. So yeah, we'll pay for what comes out of your pocket. You waive what doesn't come out of your pocket.
Okay.
Right? I don't know exactly how to say this, but I move,
Of course, I'd rather you just take it all, but that's fine.
I move to waive that portion of the building permit fee that is paid to the township.
Got it.
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks, Tony.
Okay. Harlan has provided us with the final copy of the agreement with Westview. We're going to review that and we'll act on it at the next authority meeting. And surprisingly, they did agree to a 20-year term, which is surprising. I thought they wanted 30, but they put in most of everything we asked for. Okay, with respect to the correspondence from Swickley, we've already answered the one on the building permits. And the next is the question on, they asked that we provide Swickley, the goodness of our heart, water consumption, so they can compare it to the sewage flows. Good luck. We won't be able to do that, but that's okay. But we have the information here. They wanted it monthly. We can't provide it monthly because we read the water meters quarterly, and we'll give it to them quarterly. And we're going to send this in for the last quarter of 2014. That's when we first started to read the sewage meters. The water consumption of the individuals that use water that are connected to the sewer amounted to 7,400,000 and change. And the amount of sewage flow was 6,600,000 and change. So in essence, as one would expect, there is more flow in the sewage than water consumption because of leakage and so forth. So that makes some sense.
Wait, the water flow was 7 million?